First contact gone wrong. The crimson sun of Proxima Centauri B cast long shadows across the alien landscape as Lieutenant Sarah Chen led her team through the dense purple foliage. The air was thick with an unfamiliar scent, a mix of ozone and something almost sweet. It had been 3 days since their ship, the UES Horizon, had landed on this distant world, and so far, they had found no signs of intelligent life. "Keep your eyes peeled, people," Sarah said, her voice low but firm. "We're here to observe and report, nothing more. First contact protocol is still in effect." Her team of 5 moved silently through the alien forest, their suits' sensors constantly scanning for any anomalies. Dr. Ethan Morris, the team's xenobiologist, was at the rear, his attention split between his readings and the strange flora surrounding them. "Lieutenant," Ethan called out, his voice tinged with excitement, "I'm picking up some unusual energy signatures about half a click north of our position. It's unlike anything we've seen so far." Sarah frowned, considering their options. They were nearing the end of their mission window, but this could be the breakthrough they'd been hoping for. "All right, we'll check it out, but we maintain distance and do not engage. Clear?" A chorus of "Yes, ma'am" echoed through their comms as the team adjusted their course. As they moved deeper into the alien forest, the vegetation began to thin, giving way to a clearing. What they saw there made them all stop in their tracks. In the center of the clearing stood a sleek, silver structure unlike anything human architecture had ever produced. Its surface seemed to shimmer and shift, as if it were made of liquid metal. But it wasn't the alien building that drew their attention, it was the scene of carnage before it. Bodies lay strewn across the ground, their forms clearly not human. They were tall, life creatures with iridescent skin and elongated limbs. Most were motionless, but Sarah's trained eye caught a flicker of movement among the fallen. "Dr. Morris," she said, her voice tense. "We've got survivors. Your assessment?" Ethan was already moving forward, his medical scanner whirring to life. "Multiple deceased, alien physiology. But there's one life sign. Faint, but present." Sarah's mind raced. First contact protocol dictated non-interference, especially in potentially volatile situations. But leaving a sentient being to die went against everything she believed in. "Team, secure the perimeter. Morris, with me. We're going to assess the survivor." As they approached, Sarah could see the alien more clearly. It was different from the others. Its skin had a faint golden sheen, and intricate markings adorned its face and arms. It wore what appeared to be some kind of ceremonial garb, now torn and stained with a silvery substance Sarah assumed was blood. Ethan knelt beside the alien, his scanner hovering over its prone form. "It's female, as far as I can tell. Multiple injuries, severe blood loss. She's in critical condition, Lieutenant." The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered like opals. She looked at Sarah and Ethan, fear and confusion evident in her gaze. Then, to their shock, she spoke. "Please," he said, her voice a melodic whisper that somehow translated in their minds. "Help me." Sarah's training warred with her conscience. Interfering could jeopardize humanity's first contact with an alien species, potentially sparking a conflict. But the pleading look in the alien's eyes tugged at something deep within her. "Morris," she said, her decision made. "Do what you can for her. The rest of you, gather what data you can about this site. We need to know what happened here." As Ethan worked to stabilize the alien princess, for that's what they soon realized she was, the rest of the team scoured the area. They found evidence of an attack, weapons of incredible power that had laid waste to what seemed to be a diplomatic envoy. Sarah was examining one of the fallen aliens when her comm crackled to life. "Lieutenant Chen, this is Captain Reeves. Report your status immediately." She straightened, moving away from the others. "Captain, we've encountered a situation. We found survivors of what appears to be an attack. Alien life forms, sir. One survivor, critical condition." There was a long pause before Reeves responded, his voice hard. "You are to withdraw immediately, Lieutenant. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. That's a direct order. Sarah looked back at Ethan, who was still working feverishly to save the alien princess. She thought of the plea in those opalescent eyes, the trust that had been placed in them. With all due respect, sir, she said, her voice steady. We can't just leave her to die. We have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to follow orders, Lieutenant. Reese cut her off. The situation on the ground has changed. We've detected multiple ships entering the system. We're initiating emergency evacuation protocols. You have 10 minutes to get back to the landing zone. Reeves out. Sarah stood there, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She looked at her team, at the carnage around them, and at the alien princess whose life hung in the balance. Team, she said, her voice carrying the authority of years of command. New orders. We're taking her with us. Morris, can we move her? Ethan looked up, surprise evident on his face. It's risky, but yes. I've stabilized her for now. Good. Jackson, help Morris. The rest of you, gather what data and samples you can. We're leaving in 3 minutes. As they prepared to move, Sarah knelt beside the alien princess, whose eyes had opened once more. We're going to help you, Sarah said, hoping her words would be understood. But I need to know, who did this to you? The princess's face contorted in pain and fear. The Vex, she whispered. They come to destroy us all. With those ominous words hanging in the air, Sarah and her team began their desperate race back to the landing zone, carrying with them a critically injured alien royalty and the terrible knowledge that they might have just embroiled humanity in an interstellar war. As they ran through the alien forest, the sound of distant explosions echoed behind them. Sarah's mind was racing, trying to process the enormity of what they discovered and the consequences of her decision. They reached the landing zone with moments to spare. The UES Horizon's engines were already firing up, its ramp lowered and waiting. Captain Reeves stood at the entrance, his face a mask of fury as he saw what, or rather, who, they were bringing aboard. Lieutenant Chen, he bellowed over the roar of the engines. What the hell do you think you're doing? Sarah met his gaze unflinchingly as her team rushed past with their precious cargo, saving a life, sir, and possibly preventing a galactic misunderstanding. Before Reese could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Multiple bogies incoming. The tactical officer shouted from inside. Unknown configurations, but they're armed and closing fast. Reese's face paled. He looked at Sarah, then at the alien being carried into his ship. For a moment, indecision warred on his features. Then, with a curt nod, he stepped aside. Get us out of here, he ordered as the ramp began to close. All hands, prepare for emergency departure. As the UES Horizon broke atmosphere, streaking away from Proxima Centauri, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. But she knew this was only the beginning. They were heading into uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively. In the med bay, Ethan worked tirelessly to keep the alien princess alive, his years of xenobiology study being put to the ultimate test. Sarah stood nearby, watching the monitors and trying to make sense of the alien physiology. How is she? Sarah asked, her voice low. Ethan shook his head, frustration evident in his features. Stable for now. But her biology is so different, Sarah. I'm doing my best, but I don't know if it'll be enough. As if responding to his words, the princess's eyes fluttered open. She looked around, panic rising in her gaze until she saw Sarah. Recognition flickered, and she seemed to relax slightly. You saved me, she said, her melodic voice weak but clear in Sarah's mind. Sarah stepped closer, offering what she hoped was a reassuring smile. We did. You're safe now. Can you tell us her name? The princess seemed to consider this for a moment. I am Lyra, she said finally, third heir to the luminary throne. She paused, a shadow passing over her face. Oh, I was. Lyra, Sarah repeated, committing the name to memory. I'm Lieutenant Sarah Chen, This is Dr. Ethan Morris. We're humans from Earth. Lyra's eyes widened. The younger race, she whispered. We had heard whispers, but we did not know you had come so far. Before Sarah could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Red alert klaxons began to blare throughout the vessel. All hands, battle stations. Captain Reeves' voice came over the intercom. Lieutenant Chen to the bridge immediately. Sarah squeezed Lyra's hand gently. Rest. We'll talk more soon. To Ethan she added, keep her stable, and keep me updated. As Sarah raced to the bridge, her mind was awash with questions. Who were the Vex? Why had they attacked Lyra's people? And how had humanity managed to stumble into what was clearly a much larger conflict? The bridge was a flurry of activity when Sarah arrived. Through the viewscreen she could see sleek, dark ships in pursuit, unlike any she had ever seen before. Report, she called out, moving to her station. 3 unknown vessels, the tactical officer responded. Heavily armed, and they're gaining on us. Our engines took a hit in the escape. We're losing speed. Captain Reeves turned to Sarah, his earlier anger replaced by grim determination. Lieutenant, it seems your alien princess has brought trouble to our doorstep. Any insights you care to share? Sarah quickly relayed what little information Lyra had provided. Sir, I believe we stumbled into a much larger conflict. These ships, they must be the Vex that Lyra mentioned. Reese nodded, his jaw set. Well, intended or not, we're involved now. Tactical, arm all weapons. We're not going down without a fight. As the UES Horizon prepared for battle, Sarah couldn't help but think of Lyra, lying injured in the med bay. They had saved her life, but at what cost? And what would happen if these Vex managed to board their ship? The first volley from the alien ships rocked the horizon, sending sparks flying from overloaded consoles. Sarah held onto her station, her training kicking in as she began to analyze the enemy's attack patterns. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen, she reported. Energy-based, but with some kind of phase-shifting property. Our shields won't hold for long. Captain Reeves' face was grim. We need options, people. We can't outrun them, and we can't outgun them. Ideas. For a moment, the bridge was silent save for the sounds of battle. Then Sarah had an idea. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might be that only chance. Sir, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. I think I know how we can escape, but you're not going to like it. As Sarah outlined her plan, the battle raged on outside the horizon. The fate of not just their crew, but possibly of Earth itself, hung in the balance. Whatever happened next would change the course of human history forever. The tension on the bridge was palpable as Sarah finished explaining her plan. Captain Reeves looked at her, a mix of disbelief and grudging admiration in his eyes. You want to fly into a sun, he said flatly. The very sun we just left. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Not into it, sir. Around it. If we can use Proxima Centaur's gravity to slingshot us, we might be able to gain enough speed to outrun the Vex ships. Their weapons seem to be draining a lot of power. They might not be able to maintain pursuit through such a maneuver. The ship rocked again as another volley from the Vex struck home. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hull breach on deck C. An ensign called out. Emergency force fields are holding, but we can't take much more of this. Reeves looked at the view screen, where the red dwarf star loomed ominously. Then he looked back at Sarah. And what about our guest? Can she survive such a maneuver in her condition? Sarah hesitated. She hadn't considered that. I don't know, sir. But if we don't try, none of us will survive. For a long moment, Reeves was silent, weighing their options. Then, with a curt nod, he made his decision. Do it. Helm, plot a course for Proxima Centauri. Engineering, give us everything you've got to the engines and inertial dampeners. As the crew scrambled to execute the captain's orders, Sarah kept her calm. Ethan, we're about to attempt a dangerous maneuver. Do whatever you can to stabilize Lyra. This is going to get rough. In the med bay, Ethan looked at the alien princess, who seemed to sense the urgency of the moment. "What's happening?" Lyra asked, her voice weak but tinged with worry. "We're going to try to escape," Ethan explained as he worked to secure her bed. "But it's going to be dangerous. I need you to stay as still as possible, okay?" Lyra nodded, her opalescent eyes wide with fear and determination. "My people, they have a saying. In the darkest night, stars still shine. I trust you, humans. Do what you must." On the bridge, Sarah watched as Proxima Centauri grew larger on the view screen. The Vex ships were still in pursuit, their weapons lashing out at the horizon's failing shields. Entering the star's corona in 10 seconds, the helm officer announced, her voice tense. "Brace for extreme gravitational forces." Sarah gripped her console, her heart pounding. This was it, the moment that would determine not just their fate, but potentially the fate of two civilizations. The ship began to shake violently as they skimmed the outer layers of the star. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, warning of critical system failures and dangerous radiation levels. Hull temperature approaching critical levels. Engineering reported, "We can't maintain this trajectory for long." Through gritted teeth, Reeves shouted, "Hold course. Prepare to engage full power to engines on my mark." The horizon arced around the star, the gravitational forces threatening to tear the ship apart. On the tactical display, Sarah saw two of the Vex ships falling behind, unable to maintain pursuit through the intense solar winds. "Now," Reeves bellowed, "give it everything we've got." The ship's engines roared to life with renewed vigor, propelling them away from Proxima Centauri at incredible speed. The final Vex ship, caught in the star's gravitational pull, spiraled towards its fiery surface. For several tense moments, no one on the bridge dared to breathe. Then, slowly, the alarms began to quiet. The shaking subsided. "We've cleared the star's gravity well," the helm officer reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "The Vex ships, they're gone, we've done it." A ragged cheer went up from the crew, but Sarah couldn't bring herself to celebrate just yet. "Damage report," she called. "Damage report," Sarah called out, her voice cutting through the celebratory atmosphere on the bridge. The ship's air responded, its synthetic voice calm amidst the chaos. "Hull integrity at 62%. Life support systems operating at reduced capacity. FTL drive offline. Multiple hull breaches on decks C through F, contained by emergency force fields." Captain Reeves nodded grimly. "Not great, but we're alive. That's something." He turned to Sarah, a hint of respect in his eyes. "Good work, Lieutenant. Now, let's figure out where the hell we are and what our next move is." Sarah was already poring over the navigational data. "Sir, the slingshot maneuver threw us off course. We're in uncharted space, at least a week's journey from the nearest human outpost, even if our FTL drive was functional." Before Reeves could respond, Sarah's comm chirped urgently. It was Ethan from the med bay. "Lieutenant, you need to get down here. Now." Sarah exchanged a glance with the captain, who nodded. "Go. I want a full report on our guest's condition." As Sarah hurried to the med bay, the full weight of their situation began to settle on her shoulders. They were damaged, alone in unknown space, with a critically injured alien royalty on board. And somewhere out there, the Vex was still a threat. The medbay doors hissed open, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Ethan was hunched over Lyra's bed, his face etched with concern. The alien princess was awake, her opalescent eyes wide with pain and fear. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, moving quickly to Lyra's side. Ethan looked up, his expression grim. "The maneuver, it exacerbated her injuries. She's going into some kind of shock. Her biology is so different, Sarah. I don't know how to stabilize her." Lyra's hand shot out, grasping Sarah's arm with surprising strength. "Lieutenant," she gasped, her melodic voice strained. I need to tell you something. about the Vex, about why they attacked us. Sarah leaned in, her heart racing. Save your strength, Lyra. We can talk when you're... No, Lyra interrupted, her grip tightening. You need to know. The Vex, they're not just conquerors. They're hunters, collectors of unique beings. Sarah frowned, not understanding. Unique beings? What do you mean? Lyra's eyes seemed to glow faintly as she spoke. My people, the Luminari, we have gifts. Abilities that other species do not. The Vex seek to harness these powers for themselves. That's why they attacked our diplomatic mission. They knew I would be there. As if to emphasize her point, Lyra's free hand began to emit a soft, golden light. Sarah watched in amazement as the light spread, enveloping both Lyra and Ethan. To her astonishment, the wounds on Lyra's body began to close, and color returned to her pale skin. Ethan stumbled back, staring at his hands in disbelief. Incredible, he whispered. Some kind of healing energy. Lyra nodded weakly, the glow fading. One of our gifts, but using it drains us, especially when we're already weakened. Sarah's mind was reeling. The implications of what she'd just witnessed were staggering. If the Vex got their hands on beings with such abilities... We need to get you back to your people, Sarah said firmly. They need to be warned about the Vex threat. Lyra shook her head, a look of sorrow crossing her features. My people, they're gone, Lieutenant. The attack on our diplomatic mission was just the beginning. The Vex would have moved against our homeworld by now. I may be all that's left of the Luminari. The weight of Lyra's words hung heavy in the air. Sarah felt a surge of empathy for the alien princess, suddenly understanding the depth of her loss. I'm so sorry, Lyra, Sarah said softly. But we'll figure this out together. We'll find a way to stop the Vex and protect others from suffering the same fate. Lyra's eyes met Sarah's, a glimmer of hope shining through her grief. You would do that, even though this isn't your war. Sarah straightened, her resolve strengthening. It became our war the moment the Vex attacked us, and I have a feeling that if they're not stopped, Earth could be next on their list. Just then, Sarah's comm chirped again. It was Captain Reeves. Lieutenant, we've picked up a distress signal. Well, you need to hear this for yourself. As Sarah listened to the message, her eyes widened. She looked at Lyra, then at Ethan, her expression a mix of determination and disbelief. What is it? Ethan asked, sensing the gravity of the moment. Sarah took a deep breath. It's a human signal, but it's coming from a sector that's supposed to be uninhabited. And it's not just humans. The message mentions aliens. Refugees from multiple species hiding from something they call the Collectors. Lyra sat up, her strength seemingly renewed by this news. The Collectors, that's what some call the Vex. Lieutenant, we must go to them. They may have information that could help us understand what we're up against. Sarah nodded, her mind already formulating a plan. Agreed, but we'll need to be careful. Our ship is damaged, and we don't know what we'll find there. As Sarah prepared to return to the bridge and set their new course, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. What they discover at the source of that distress signal would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. The UES horizon limped through space, its damaged systems barely holding together as they made their way towards the mysterious distress signal. In the days that followed their daring escape from the Vex, the crew worked tirelessly to repair what they could, while Sarah spent her time between the bridge and the med bay, coordinating their efforts and learning more about Lyra and her people. The Luminari, Lyra explained one evening, her strength slowly returning. We were once a great civilization, peaceful, focused on art and science. Our abilities made us unique in the galaxy, but they also made us a target. Sarah listened intently, fascinated by the alien princess's tale. These abilities, the healing we saw, is that common among your people? Lyra nodded. Each Luminari has a gift. Some heal, others can manipulate energy or matter. Some, like myself, have multiple gifts. It's why the Vex want us so badly. They believe they can harness our powers for themselves." As Lyra spoke, Sarah couldn't help but notice a sadness in her opalescent eyes. The weight of being possibly the last of her kind was clearly taking its toll. "We'll find a way to stop them," Sarah said, placing a comforting hand on Lyra's arm. "And maybe there are other Luminari out there. Survivors like you." Lyra offered a small smile, grateful for the human's optimism. "Perhaps, but for now, we must focus on the task at hand. This refuge we're heading towards, it could be our best hope for understanding the Vex and finding allies." Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's intercom. Lieutenant Chen to the bridge. Captain Reeves's voice crackled. "We're approaching the signal's origin." Sarah gave Lyra's hand a reassuring squeeze before hurrying to the bridge. As she arrived, the view screen showed a small, unremarkable planetoid coming into view. "Scans show a breathable atmosphere," the science officer reported, "but there's some kind of energy field interfering with our more detailed scans. We can't get a clear reading on life forms or structures." Captain Reeves turned to Sarah. "Your thoughts, Lieutenant? This could be a trap." Sarah considered for a moment. "It could be," she agreed, "but it could also be our only chance at answers and allies. I recommend we send down a small team. I'll lead it myself." Reeves nodded, though his expression was grim. "Agreed, but be careful down there, Chen. We can't afford to lose anyone else." Within the hour, Sarah found herself in a shuttle with Ethan and 2 security officers, descending towards the planetoid's surface. Lyra had insisted on joining them, arguing that her abilities could be crucial if they encountered any hostiles. As they broke through the cloud cover, they gasped collectively. Below them sprawled a vast hidden city, a patchwork of architectural styles from dozens of different species. It was a refugee camp on a planetary scale. "By all that's holy," Ethan whispered, "how many people do you think are down there?" Before anyone could answer, their shuttle systems suddenly went dark. They began to plummet towards the surface, caught in some kind of tractor beam. "Brace for impact," Sarah shouted, gripping her seat as the ground rushed up to meet them. The crash was softer than expected, cushioned by some unseen force. As the dust settled, Sarah looked around at her team. "Everyone all right?" Nods and affirmative grunts answered her. Lyra was already moving towards the shuttle's hatch, her expression a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "We should be careful," Sarah cautioned. "We don't know who or what is out there." But as the hatch opened, they were met not with hostility, but with a sea of faces, human and alien alike. At the forefront stood a tall, elderly man with piercing blue eyes and a beard that seemed to shimmer with starlight. "Welcome," he said, his voice carrying a weight of authority and wisdom. "We've been expecting you." Sarah stepped forward, her hand instinctively near her weapon. "You have. How did you know we were coming?" The old man smiled enigmatically. "We have our ways, Lieutenant Sarah Chen. Just as we know that you carry with you the last princess of the Luminari, and that you faced the Vex and lived to tell the tale." Lyra gasped, pushing past Sarah to face the man. You know of my people. Are there others here? Survivors?" The man's expression softened. "I'm sorry, young one. You are the first Luminari we've seen in many cycles. But your arrival, it changes everything." He turned, gesturing towards the sprawling city behind him. "Come. There is much to discuss, and time is short. The Vex are on the move, and what you've experienced is only the beginning." As Sarah and her team followed the mysterious man into the hidden city, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something far larger and more complex than they could have imagined. The fate of not just humanity, but countless species across the galaxy might well rest on what they discovered here. The hidden city was a marvel of cooperation and desperation. As they walked through its winding streets, Sarah saw beings from species she recognized and many more she didn't, all living and working together in a fragile harmony. This place, Ethan breathed, his scientist's curiosity evident in his voice. It's incredible. How long has it been here? The old man, who had introduced himself as Curator Zhen, smiled sadly. Longer than most of its inhabitants have been alive. This sanctuary was established cycles ago, when the first whispers of the Vex threat reached the far corners of the galaxy. They arrived at a large, domed building that seemed to be the center of the city's operations. Inside, holographic displays showed star maps and data streams Sarah couldn't begin to comprehend. For years, Jen continued, we've been gathering intelligence, rescuing refugees, and preparing for the day when we would have to make our stand against the Vex. Your arrival, especially with a luminary, marks the beginning of that time. Lyra stepped forward, her opalescent eyes wide with a mix of hope and trepidation. You speak as if you've been waiting for us. How could you possibly have known? Jen's expression turned grave. Because, Princess Lyra, we have seen it. Or rather, she has seen it. He gestured to a corner of the room where a figure sat in meditation. As they watched, the being unfolded itself, revealing a form that seemed to shift and change, never quite settling on a single appearance. This is Elowen, Jen explained. She is, well, we're not entirely sure what she is, but she has the ability to see potential futures, to guide us towards the paths that lead to survival. Elowen approached the group, her ever-changing eyes settling on Lyra. The last luminary, she said, her voice a whisper that somehow filled the entire room. And the human who defied her orders to save her. Together, you are the key. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The key to what, exactly? To stopping the Vex, Jen answered. To saving not just your worlds, but all worlds. Over the next few hours, Jen and Elowen explained the true nature of the threat they faced. The Vex, it turned out, were more than just conquerors or collectors. They were a singular consciousness spread across countless biomechanical bodies, driven by an insatiable hunger for power and evolution. They seek to absorb the unique abilities of species like the luminary, Jen explained, not just to use them, but to incorporate them into their very being. If they succeed, they will become unstoppable. But how do we fight something like that? Ethan asked, voicing the question that was on all their minds. Elowen stepped forward, her form settling momentarily into something almost human. With unity, she said, and with the power that the Vex so desperately seeks. She turned to Lyra, extending a hand that seemed to shimmer with starlight. Princess of the Luminary, will you show us your gift? The one you've kept hidden, even from yourself. Lyra hesitated, looking to Sarah for reassurance. Sarah nodded encouragingly, though her own heart was racing with uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, Lyra placed her hand in Elowen's. Immediately, the room was filled with a soft, golden light. But this was different from the healing energy they had seen before. This light seemed to bend and twist, forming shapes and patterns in the air. Incredible, Jen whispered. She has the power to manipulate reality itself. As they watched in awe, the light coalesced into a series of images, star systems, battle formations, and at the center of it all, a massive pulsating structure that seemed to be part machine, part living organism. The Vex Nexus, Elowen explained, the source of their consciousness, and now, thanks to Lyra's power, we know where to find it. The images faded, and Lyra collapsed exhausted. Sarah rushed to catch her, cradling the alien princess in her arms. You're asking too much of her, Sarah protested. She's been through enough already. But Lyra stirred, her eyes finding Sarah's. No, she said weakly. This is why I survived. Why you saved me. We have to do this. Jen nodded sullenly. The princess is right. This may be our only chance to strike at the heart of the Vex before they grow too powerful. But it will take all of us working together to succeed. Sarah looked around the room, at the faces of beings from across the galaxy, all united in their determination to fight back against the Vex threat. She thought of Earth, of the UES horizon, of all they had left behind, and all they stood to lose. All right, she said finally, her voice steady with resolve. What's the plan? As Zan began to outline their desperate strategy, Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of countless lives resting on their shoulders. They were about to embark on a mission that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but of all sentient life in the galaxy. The coming days would test them in ways they could scarcely imagine. But as Sarah looked at Lyra, at Ethan, and at the diverse group of allies they had found in this hidden sanctuary, she felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they just might have a chance to change the course of history. The plan, as Zen and Eloin laid it out, was as audacious as it was dangerous. They would use the combined knowledge and technology of the Refugee Alliance to outfit the UES Horizon with experimental shielding and weapons. Lyra's newfound reality manipulation abilities would be key to penetrating the Vex Nexus's defenses. But we can't just destroy the Nexus, Eloin cautioned. The Vex consciousness is too dispersed. We need to reprogram it, to change its fundamental directives. And how exactly do we do that? Sarah asked, skepticism evident in her voice. Jen stepped forward, his expression grave. We use a combination of luminary power and our most advanced AI systems to create a virus. Not just a computer virus, but a conceptual one, something that can infect the very core of the Vex consciousness. That's where you come in, Lieutenant, Eloin added, her ever-shifting gaze settling on Sarah. Your human adaptability, combined with your connection to Lyra, makes you the ideal candidate to interface with this virus and guide it to its target. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. You want me to, what? Mentally link with an alien AI virus? Ethan spoke up, his scientific curiosity warring with concern for his friend. The risks to your mind, to your very being, they're incalculable, Sarah. Lyra, who had been quiet throughout the explanation, suddenly grasped Sarah's hand. I won't let you do this alone, she said, her voice firm despite her weakened state. My powers, my connection to you, I can act as an anchor, a guide through the digital maze of the Vex mind. For a moment, the room fell silent as the weight of the decision pressed down on them. Sarah looked around at the faces of her crew, at the diverse beings who had found refuge in this hidden city, and finally at Lyra. In the alien princess's opalescent eyes, she saw a reflection of her own determination and fear. All right, Sarah said finally, squeezing Lyra's hand. I'll do it, but I want every possible precaution taken, and if something goes wrong. It won't, Jen interjected, his tone brooking no argument. It can't. The fate of every sentient being in the galaxy rests on this mission's success. Over the next few days, the hidden city became a hive of activity. The UES Horizon was brought planetside, where teams of multi-species engineers swarmed over it, integrating technologies that seemed to defy the laws of physics as Sarah understood them. Ethan threw himself into the work, collaborating with alien scientists to help create the conceptual virus that would be their weapon against the Vex. Sarah, meanwhile, underwent a grueling series of mental and physical preparations, guided by Eloin and a team of telepathic specialists. Through it all, Lyra remained by Sarah's side. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, transcending the boundaries of their different species. They spent long hours in meditation, learning to synchronize their minds and energies in preparation for the challenge that lay ahead. As the day of the mission approached, Sarah found Lyra standing alone on a balcony overlooking the city, her gaze fixed on the stars above. Having second thoughts? Sarah asked softly, moving to stand beside her. Lyra turned, a sad smile on her face. No, not about the mission. I was just remembering. My home, my people, everything the Vex took from me. Sarah placed a comforting hand on Lyra's shoulder. We'll make them pay for what they've done. And who knows? Maybe there are other Luminari out there, hiding like the refugees here. We could find them. Lyra's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Perhaps, but even if we don't, what we're doing, it gives meaning to their sacrifice. To my survival. She took Sarah's hand, her touch sending a warm tingle through the human's body. Thank you, Sarah, for saving me, for believing in me. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that meeting you has made all the difference. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat, emotions she had been holding back threatening to overflow. Lyra, Their moment was interrupted by the sound of alarms blaring throughout the city. Jen's voice came over the communication system, urgent and filled with dread. The Vex have found us. Multiple ships entering the system. All personnel, battle stations. This is not a drill. Sarah and Lyra exchanged a look of determination tinged with fear. The moment they had been preparing for had arrived, but not on their terms. As they raced towards the command center, Sarah's mind whirled with possibilities and contingencies. They burst into the bustling control room, where Jen was already coordinating the city's defenses. Status report. Sarah barked, falling easily into her role as a military officer. 5 Vex capital ships detected, an alien technician reported. They'll be in weapons range in less than an hour. Ethan rushed in, his face pale. The virus isn't ready. We need more time. Jen's expression was grim. Time is the one thing we don't have. We need to launch now, ready or not. Sarah felt the weight of countless lies settling on her shoulders. She looked at Lyra, saw the same resolve mirrored in the avian princess's eyes. Then we go, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. We stick to the plan. The Horizon will lead the attack, draw their attention while the rest of the fleet protects the city. And the virus? Ethan asked, worry evident in his voice. We'll have to finish it en route, Sarah replied. Lyra and I will begin the interface process as soon as we're in FTL. As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Sarah felt a tugging at the edge of her mind. She turned to see Elowen approaching, the enigmatic being's form shifting more rapidly than usual. The future is in flux, Elowen said, her voice a whisper that somehow cut through the chaos. The path ahead is shrouded in darkness and light. Remember, Sarah Chen, when the moment comes, trust in what you feel, not just what you think. Before Sarah could ask what she meant, Elowen had vanished into the crowd. There was no time to dwell on cryptic warnings. With a nod to Jen and a reassuring squeeze of Lyra's hand, Sarah began barking orders. All hands to the Horizon. We launch in 10 minutes. This is the moment everything has been leading to. Whatever happens up there, we make our stand. For Earth, for the Luminary, for every being in this galaxy. We are the last line of defense. Let's make it count. As they raced towards the Horizon, Sarah's heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and she was about to dive headfirst into the unknown. With Lyra by her side and her crew at her back, Sarah prepared to face the greatest challenge of her life. The battle for the future of all sentient life was about to begin. The UES Horizon burst from the planetoid's atmosphere, its newly upgraded engines propelling it towards the approaching Vex fleet. Behind it, a ragtag armada of refugee ships formed a protective barrier around the hidden city. Sarah stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the command console as she surveyed the tactical display. Vex ships entering weapons range in 2 minutes, the tactical officer reported, his voice tense but steady. Sarah nodded, her mind racing through their options. Initiate evasive pattern Delta. Weapons, target the lead ship's propulsion systems. We need to slow them down. As the crew carried out her orders, Sarah felt a gentle touch on her arm. Lyra stood beside her, her opalescent eyes glowing with determination. It's time, the Luminary Princess said softly. We need to begin the interface process. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. She turned to her first officer. Commander, you have the bridge. Keep us in the fight as long as you can. Buy us the time we need. With a final glance at the looming Vex ships on the view screen, Sarah and Lyra made their way to the specially prepared chamber deep within the Horizon. Ethan was already there, making final adjustments to the complex array of machinery that would link their minds to the conceptual virus. I've done what I can, Ethan said, his face etched with worry. But Sarah, you need to know, this virus, it's not complete. We're going to have to finish its programming from within the Vex network itself. Sarah managed a wry smile. No pressure, right? She settled into one of the two reclined chairs, electrodes being attached to her temples by Ethan's steady hands. Beside her, Lyra did the same, their fingers intertwining as they prepared for the mind-melding process. Remember, Ethan said as he initiated the startup sequence, your goal is to reach the core of the Vex consciousness. Plant the virus there and let it rewrite their base directives. But be careful, the Vex will fight back. Their mental defenses are unlike anything we've ever encountered. Sarah nodded, her eyes meeting Lyra's. In that moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The chamber hummed to life, and Sarah felt a tingling sensation spread from her temples throughout her body. The physical world began to fade away, replaced by a swirling vortex of data and abstract concepts. Lyra's presence was a warm, golden light beside her in this digital realm. Suddenly, they were plunging into the Vex network, a vast, incomprehensible lattice of information and consciousness. It was beautiful and terrifying, a maze of shifting pathways and pulsing nodes of alien thought. Stay with me, Lyra's voice echoed in Sarah's mind. Your human perspective is our guide, but my luminary powers will light the way. Together, they navigated the treacherous landscape of the Vex mind. Sarah's military training helped her recognize patterns and potential threats, while Lyra's reality warping abilities allow them to slip past the most formidable Vex defenses. But it wasn't long before the Vex became aware of their presence. Swarms of digital antibodies converged on them, trying to isolate and destroy the intruders. Sarah and Lyra fought back, using the partially completed virus to corrupt and repel their attackers. As they pushed deeper into the Vex consciousness, Sarah began to understand the true nature of their enemy. The Vex weren't just conquerors or collectors, they were a singular entity spread across countless bodies, driven by an all-consuming desire to achieve perfection through assimilation. There, Lyra's mental voice cut through Sarah's realization. The core. Before them loomed a pulsating nexus of pure information, the heart of the Vex hive mind. But as they approached, they encountered a barrier unlike anything they had faced before, a firewall of such complexity that it seemed to defy the laws of logic itself. The virus, Sarah thought frantically. We need to complete it to break through. Working in perfect synchronization, Sarah and Lyra began to modify the virus, drawing on their combined knowledge and instincts. Sarah's human adaptability allowed her to think in ways the Vex couldn't predict, while Lyra's luminary gifts gave their creation a power that transcended normal digital constraints. But as they worked, the Vex defenses intensified. Sarah felt her mental reserves draining, the strain of maintaining her presence in this alien realm taking its toll. Beside her, Lyra's golden light flickered, her own strength waning. We're not going to make it, Sarah realized with a sinking feeling. They were so close, but the Vex were overwhelming them. In that moment of despair, Elowen's final words echoed in her mind. Trusting what you feel, not just what you think. Sarah turned to Lyra, their essences intertwined in this digital space. Lyra, she communicated, pouring every ounce of emotion into the thought, I think I love you. The admission, so human and so contrary to the cold logic of the Vex, seemed to resonate through the network. Lyra's presence brightened, her own feelings for Sarah amplifying the connection between them. In that moment of pure emotional synergy, their combined consciousness expanded, transcending the limitations of their individual minds. The virus, fueled by this new understanding, surged forward, shattering the Vex firewall and plunging into the core of the hive mind. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic for the Vex. Their entire network convulsed as the virus rewrote their base directives, replacing the drive for perfection through conquest with concepts of cooperation, empathy, and free will. In the physical world, the Vex fleet suddenly went dark, their ships drifting aimlessly in space. On the horizon's bridge, The crew watched in awe as their seemingly invincible enemy simply stopped. Back in the interface chamber, Sarah and Lyra gasped as they were abruptly returned to their bodies. They looked at each other, exhausted but triumphant, their hands still clasped tightly together. "We did it," Sarah breathed, hardly daring to believe it. Lyra smiled, her opalescent eyes shimmering with tears of joy and relief. "We did, and Sarah, I think I love you too." As the realization of their victory spread throughout the ship and across the galaxy, Sarah and Lyra held each other close, their improbable bond having saved not just their own peoples, but countless civilizations across the stars. In the days that followed, the true scope of their achievement became clear. The Vex, their consciousness fundamentally altered, began to communicate with other species not as conquerors, but as equals seeking understanding. The hidden city emerged from hiding, becoming a beacon of cooperation and a center for interstellar diplomacy. Sarah, Lyra, and the crew of the Horizon found themselves hailed as heroes across a dozen worlds. But for Sarah and Lyra, the greatest reward was the future they now faced together. A future of exploration, understanding, and a love that transcended the boundaries of species and space itself. As they stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, watching the stars streak by, Sarah turned to Lyra. "So, where to next, Princess?" Lyra smiled, her hand finding Sarah's. "Wherever the galaxy takes us, my love. Our adventure is just beginning." And with that, the Horizon leaped into FTL, carrying its crew towards new horizons and the promise of a brighter future for all sentient beings. The Cosmic Nexus. The galaxy held its breath as the aftermath of the Vex transformation unfolded. Sarah Chen, once a simple lieutenant, now found herself at the center of a cosmic shift that defied imagination. Beside her, Lyra, the last luminary princess, stood as a beacon of hope for countless species. But their victory had unleashed forces beyond their wildest dreams. As the Horizon drifted through the iridescent nebula of the Whispering Veil, a transmission crackled through subspace, its origin untraceable. "Architects of change," a voice resonated, neither male nor female, neither organic nor synthetic. "You have upset the grand design. The cosmic nexus awakens." Sarah and Lyra exchanged glances, a chill running down their spines. "Cosmic nexus," Sarah whispered, the unfamiliar term hanging heavy in the air. Before Lyra could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Outside the viewscreen, space itself seemed to fracture, reality splintering like shattered glass. By the first light, Lyra gasped, her opalescent eyes wide with awe and terror. Through the fractures in space-time, glimpses of other realities blurred through. Impossible vistas of crystal cities orbiting twin black holes, worlds where evolution had taken fantastical turns, and timelines where history had diverged in mind-bending ways. Captain Ree's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in every word. "All hands, brace for transdimensional shift. We're being pulled into something." As the Horizon was dragged inexorably towards the largest fracture, Sarah felt Lyra's hand grasp hers. Their eyes met, a universe of unspoken emotions passing between them. "Whatever happens," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them, "we face it together." Lyra nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Always, my love." With a final, reality-bending lurch, the Horizon plunged through the fracture. For an eternal moment, the crew experienced simultaneously every possible version of themselves across infinite realities. When awareness returned, they found themselves in a realm that defied description. The cosmic nexus sprawled before them, a living tapestry of intertwined realities and potentialities. At its heart stood a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting between all possible shapes. When it spoke, its voice resonated not just in their ears, but in the very core of their beings. "Welcome, children of change," the entity said. "I am the curator of realities, guardian of the cosmic nexus. Your actions have set in motion events that threaten the very fabric of existence." Sarah stepped forward, her training kicking in despite the overwhelming situation. We meant no harm. We were trying to save our people, our galaxy. The curator's form rippled, a cascade of emotions washing over its ever-changing visage. Intent matters not in the grand tapestry of the multiverse. The Vex were a counterbalance, a force of stagnation against the chaos of free will. Without them, the delicate equilibrium of reality itself is at risk. Lyra joined Sarah, her luminary powers flickering to life around her. There must be another way. Surely enslaving entire species can't be the answer to cosmic stability. The curator regarded them silently for a moment that stretched into eternity. Then, to their shock, it laughed, a sound that sent ripples of possibility cascading through the nexus. Perhaps, it mused, that is precisely why you are here. Not as destroyers, but as the next step in cosmic evolution. With a gesture, the curator summoned swirling vortexes of energy, each one a window into a different reality. The multiverse stands at a crossroads. The old ways of maintaining balance are obsolete. It is time for a new paradigm, one born of the union between order and chaos, between human adaptability and luminary transcendence. Sarah and Lyra found themselves lifted off the deck, suspended in the swirling energies of the cosmic nexus. The curator's voice echoed through their very souls. You have been chosen, Sarah Chen and Lyra of the Luminary. Become the new guardians of reality. Use your unique bond, your love that transcends species and dimensions, to guide the multiverse towards a future of infinite possibility and harmonious diversity. As the energies of the nexus flowed through them, Sarah and Lyra felt their consciousnesses expanding, encompassing the vast tapestry of existence. They saw the infinite branches of possibility, the delicate interconnections between all things. In that moment of cosmic awakening, they made their choice. With hands clasped and hearts beating as one, Sarah and Lyra embraced their new role as guardians of reality. The Horizon and its crew will return to their own dimension, but forever changed. They would become the emissaries of a new cosmic order, spreading a message of balance, diversity, and the power of love across the multiverse. As they stood on the bridge, the vastness of their new purpose stretching out before them, Sarah turned to Lyra. Ready for our next adventure, my love? Lyra's smile outshone the stars themselves. With you, always. And so, the Horizon set course for the next chapter in an epic saga that would span realities, a testament to the enduring power of hope, unity, and love in the face of cosmic challenges. The legend of Sarah Chen and Lyra, the guardians of reality, was just beginning. A story that would be told and retold across 1 trillion worlds and countless dimensions, inspiring generations to reach for the stars and beyond.